When I moved to Rochester and took the position at the University of Rochester, I went back to school part-time to get a master's in public health. And this really changed the way I think, and it also changed my career. So in medical school, we learn about individual health. We learn about the doctor and the patient relationship, and how to take a history, and how to provide the right prescriptions. But public health is completely different. It's about working with populations and trying to decide how to measure disease in populations, how to determine what the right treatments are, how to find the people that are at risk for certain problems and identify them and make sure they get the care that they need, and how to develop policy for large populations of people. So it's been a real added dimension to me to be able to think more in a population realm, but on the other hand, still see patients and do the one-on-one. Advocacy is really important in what I do every single day, both in my work life as well as in my volunteer life. So most of my practice is headache medicine, and I think it's important, particularly for the Athena audience, which is about women and for women, to know that migraine is really a disease that affects women. And it occurs 3 times more frequently in women than in men, affects 18% of women and 6% of girls. So it really is not just a public health problem, it's a women's health problem. And I advocate for my patients with headache every single day. I advocate to their families, to their employers, and, much to my dismay, to their insurance companies. I also advocate not just on a personal level, but I also advocate on a national level for patients with headache. And I do this primarily through my role on the Legislative Affairs Committee of the American Headache Society. I don't really think of myself as being a courageous person, but there was an event that happened about 10 years ago that I wanted to share. So I was working at SUNY Upstate in Syracuse, and my office, my academic office, was in the hospital. And to see patients, I would have to walk 2 blocks to the ophthalmology department. And one bright sunny day, I gathered my huge bag full of charts and was walking out in front of the hospital. And usually when I'm out walking, I don't pay much attention to anything. I'm in my own world. But I happened to notice that there was a car that was driving erratically. Now the street, it was a one-way street, and the traffic was moving toward me, and it was a 2-lane road. So this car was moving much, much more slowly than the rest of the traffic. People were driving around the car. And I looked up and looked at the driver and realized that the driver was having a seizure. And it wasn't the kind of seizure where you shake all over and bite your tongue. It was the kind of seizure that we call a partial complex seizure, where people look like they're awake, but they're not really awake, and they don't realize what's going on, and they have no memory of the event. So this guy's having a seizure, and his car is sort of drifting over into the right lane. I dropped everything, ran out into the street, the car's still moving, managed to get alongside the car, open the car door, and take the key and turn the ignition off. But the car is still moving because I didn't have a chance to find the brake because the driver was in the car blocking my access to the brake. So I'm looking around for the emergency brake, and the car's still moving. By this time, it's in the right lane, and it's sort of heading up towards the outside wall of the hospital. The driver started coming out of his seizure, and we managed to get him to put his foot on the brake. And I started getting out of the car, but the car started rolling backwards. And so here I am, all 5'2" of me, with one foot in the car and one foot on the street, pushing the car so it wouldn't go back into the traffic. The driver wakes up. We finally get the car so that the brake is on. And somebody on the street called 911, and the police came, and they took this guy to the emergency department. And we exchanged a few pleasantries. And I talked to the police, and I picked up my stuff, and I went to see my patients.